Welcome back to episode 4 of Spellstorm Miniatures. My name is Jeremiah.
And I'm Dan.
And we just like to talk about games. Our goal here is to inspire you to play more. This episode, we're going to do a couple updates. We're going to talk about some recent Warmachine and Hordes events. And we're also going to be talking about some upcoming events. And we're very excited about those. But our main topic today, when we kind of get into the meat of the episode, is we're going to talk about theme forces, and we're going to talk about them from the perspective of being a newer player. Dan, how long have you been playing Warmachine and Hordes?
Yeah, so I'm coming, I think, on about a year right now,
Yeah.
is when I kind of first picked up the battle box and started getting into it, but I really didn't until like January time frame, really.
Yeah. So, and even though I've been playing, I guess, when Mark III kind of came out, I still count myself a newer player. So we're going to be talking about that when we get there. But I want to ask you first, in the last couple of weeks, have you played any new games, Dan?
New, not so much. Haven't.
Okay.
It's the time frame.
It's the time. That's okay.
Yep.
Well, I have the privilege of sharing with our audience this morning that I played Keyforge yesterday. So Keyforge is the brand new card game. It's being published by Fantasy Flight. And the maker, what's his name? I think it's Richard Garfield, I think is the guy's name. He's the guy who created Magic.
All right.
And we all know Magic. I mean, it really has fueled our industry. Magic alone supports game stores in some communities. And so everyone knows the game Magic and everyone has a Magic story, you know? So anyway, he created Keyforge. A lot of excitement, a lot of fanfare. Go online. A lot of places have it sold out now. There's a 2-player starter box you can pick up. I was sitting at Portland Game Store yesterday. I was going there to meet up with Jason. And Jesse was there. And he was waiting to get in a Journeyman League game. And he had picked up 2 of the $10 packs. Do you know anything about Keyforge, Dan?
No, I don't know. I know Magic, but I don't know Keyforge.
Ooh, well, let me tell you, Keyforge is it's an entirely new beast. So instead of being an individual card collecting game the way that Magic is, where you can, buy a starter and then you can customize that deck, the way the Keyforge works is each deck is set. You can never customize it. It's fixed. And all the decks are apparently, I think, computer generated randomly, and so every deck is absolutely unique. They even have their own unique names, and when you get your deck, there's 37 cards in the deck, 12 of 3 different houses, and that's really how Keyforge works. Is you have these cards that represent the houses, and it's fixed. And you don't really know what you're going to get, I guess. And the 37th card is the one that tells you what's in your deck, but it also has this QR code that players can scan and things like that. So here's how it works. So on your turn, you have X number of cards in your hand. I think player 1 gets 7 on the first turn or something, but subsequent turns you have like 6 cards in your hand. And you have to play, at the beginning of your turn, you have to pick a house. You can only play from that house that turn. Now there's some catch to it because there's some other cards that may trigger some other things and things like that. But I had so for example, if I have 5 shadows in my hand, which against Jesse yesterday I did, that turn I said, I'm playing shadows. And then the trick is then the order of operations. There's no mana. You can play any card, and things trigger when they get played, things like that. But the really cool thing is the entry point. If real minimalist entry point, Dan, $10.
Yeah, that's an excellent starter point. Can't really beat that.
No. And I just want to say thanks to Jesse yesterday. He's the one who bought the 2 packs, and he just, hey, you want to play? And he was the one who kind of wrestled through the rules real quick. The only downside is if you just get the single player pack, you don't get any tokens. The advantage of getting the 2-player starter box is that you have tokens to use. So
Also, if you want to give it to a buddy. So you'd say the rules were pretty easy to pick up, for the most part?
Yeah, and I would say the artwork is very accessible too. It doesn't have the it's not real dark, it's not real gritty.
All right.
It's kind of light fantasy. It really kind of reminds me of, to be honest, is Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition. The artwork for 4th edition was so much more lighter than the artwork for 3rd edition. In 3.5.
Yeah.
And I mean, eventually they started incorporating some more darker stuff as more supplements started being released in 4th edition. But it kind of reminded me of that. It's kind of playful, kind of like D&D 4th edition meets Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of art, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah. Right. So I theoretically, a younger player could probably pick it up and enjoy it and not be offended by the art or anything.
That's good, especially if you have kids and everything.
Yeah. One of the houses that was in my deck actually reminded me a lot of the Protector of Menoth style. So I think the name of the card was Inspiration or something, and it looked epic. So, well, Dan, let's kind of transition a little bit, and I got a question for you. The question that I have for you comes from another podcast that I was listening to. I think it was White Noise. Which is I think I was listening to a historical podcast, or historical miniatures podcast, and they were talking about it. And so the question is, are you a player who paints or a painter who plays?
Yeah, that's the kind of the interesting. I think we talked about it a little bit on our first episode about how the hobby side of it, and how I enjoy that part of it, sometimes more than others. I can save that for our hobby desk talk a little bit later when I'm working on now, but it's been kind of both ways a little bit for me. I got obviously got sucked in a little bit by the rules, the universe, the stompy robots, casters, beasts, steampunky, good fun. But I do enjoy the painting aspect of it, and oddly enough, lately I find myself I have more time to paint, and I'm actually spending more time painting than I am playing. So I guess right now I'm a painter who plays, but hopefully I'll be more of a player who paints occasionally when a new model comes out.
Yeah, it's funny how the expectation of different communities. So when you walk into a GW store, they want you to play painted models. Like, that's their expectation, is to have painted models on the table. And and when I look at small skirmish games like Infinity or Malifaux, there's a huge push towards having painted models. It's a little bit easier because you're dealing with fewer models there, because it's a skirmish scale game. But and each company actually has their own, like, all three of those, GW, Weird, and Corvus Belli, they all have a prize, a painted prize award that they give out to players, at different times in the year and things like that. And so painting is definitely part of the emphasis of the game. Warmachine recently, I think it was this year, they dropped the painted requirements for their events. Is that true?
Because it used to be, was it Masters or Champions that had a painted requirement?
Yeah, and now they don't.
Yeah, now it's kind of off, which, I mean, I get it makes it more accessible, but then at the same time, I mean, I am one of those who I like seeing them painted too, right? I think we were playing one game and I had, my gators of all different colors, and there was a Grimkin, actually Jeff's Grimkin had a lot of colors, and it was kind of like, that would be a cool looking match on the table. It does make it visually appealing, and I get it when there are people coming in the store. It sucks people in when there's painted, even if it's just that 3-color up type of scheme or...
Yeah. So I think, I guess to answer my own question, I think I'm a player who paints, but I really want to paint more. And when we get to the hobby desk, I have an idea for you, and so we can talk about that towards the end of the episode. But I think a lot of the players in our community, I think they all want to be painters.
Yeah.
But we are players, and that's truth. So, well, let's kind of shift gears a little bit, and maybe we could talk about some of our most recent events that have taken place. You were at the PGS Quarterly 2 with a Vengeance event, but you didn't play, did you?
Correct. I was trying out our new technique of getting some videos so we can post some bat reps of our local community. Obviously, it'd be great, if we finally get the time, and we'll put some of ours up. But it was a learning curve. I thought I had my camera figured out a little bit, and it kind of gave me some issues that I wasn't expecting.
Okay.
Yeah, really. The first game, which was a great learning, and involved Oz there, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, reluctantly, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'll use that one as much because the camera had an auto shut off time, so I had to keep hitting record, and so I have gaps in that game. The second one, actually, it was going good, it was looking good, and then I think the camera ran out of battery.
Oh, bummer.
And I didn't realize that, and so there was 30 minutes and 10 minutes respectively on the death clocks for the players. I mean, and they're both good-looking armies. Like, it was a cool-looking game from what I saw of it.
One side was Pine, right? And she's the one with the Scar 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a gorgeous-looking model, yeah.
So that was a little bit of a bummer. Third game actually turned out all right, so should be able to work and get that one, just kind of playing with the editing. And then the fourth round just disappeared.
It just didn't record. And I'm going to blame user error on that, mainly me, because I was one in charge of pushing the button, and apparently I don't know how to push buttons well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of one of those weird things where you think you hit record, and then, I don't know, maybe the guys didn't like it and just deleted it.
Oh, no.
No, I doubt it, but it's on the video.
Yeah.
So I'm going to work on getting those better, and then hopefully we can get those starting to post better.
Well, while you were trying to figure out your camera, I was trying to figure out Dr. Arcadius. So I have this problem where I like to show up to events with armies I've never played.
Yeah.
So round one, I have a little bit of experience with Carver, so I just played Carver round one. It's just kind of a get warmed up kind of thing, and then the rest of the day I just played a Dr. Arcadius. And in round two, I played Aaron Allen, who represented the U.S. in the WCT team event in August. And after our game, he talked to me a little bit about how Dr. Arcadius is supposed to work. And it's something I didn't see the interaction as clearly. Mm-hmm. And so once he told me about that, and then I just, for the rest of the day, tried to figure it out. And then in round 4, I was playing Harry York, one of our local guys who's really awesome, and who also has a nicely painted Scar 3. Just want to point that out. So I went into the tank like turn 3 or turn 2. I mean, it was not very many turns into the game. It took me a long time to go, okay, I have to do this, then this, activate this, kind of thing. And he stood there and asked me a couple questions. And I mean, he was very gracious, because I know it was the end of a day, and here I am trying to figure out how my army works, and he's probably wants to just play and,
get packed up, go home.
Yeah. And so huge thanks to Harry for his patience, but then also to Aaron for his instruction. I kind of figured out the trick. Now the goal is just to practice it and have the muscle memory and things like that. So there was a fun interaction in the middle of the table with a house, and trying to figure out how to get around the house and how to get him in which doctor, which apparently gives ghostly for a turn. And so I forgot one key thing which would have made the whole thing so easy. And that is seeing a huge base. You can see the huge base. So line of sight is still an issue for me.
Yeah, even though you're behind that forest, you can see it, but it can't see you.
I know. It's so unfair, I think. I actually ended up losing all 4 rounds to clock. So I was up on scenario in every round except for against Aaron Allen. We were tied 3-3 on CP at game's end. And so once again, my focus on trying to develop as a player by playing to the scenario is showing itself. But the biggest issue is just obviously knowing your army, but then also the muscle memory that comes with practice. So I thought it was a fantastic event. It was the second quarterly this year, and this year, and this time around we had 24 players, and Ben runs a smooth event. So this one is hosted by PGS, and so the winners got like in-store credit at the Portland Game Store and things like that. And once again, some folks came from farther than just Portland. Round one, I played Adam Stewart. He's a veteran player from the Seattle area, and he actually used borrowed models that day. He played Circle, and he's a good opponent because at the beginning of the round, he's very clear. He covers terrain. He explains where he's going to roll. If a die falls out of that area, it doesn't count as a roll. And there's even one scenario where he rolled what he needed to hit, but one of the dice had hopped compartments into the smaller compartment, and he picked it up and re-rolled that die, and he missed. So he stuck to his own boundaries.
It's good.
Which was as a kind of a newer player to see a veteran player respect the game like that, and to kind of walk you through that. That was really cool. I played Adam Nidek from Eugene. He's awesome. He's so super chill, and he has a groovy painting. He has a green Scorn army, and so it was just a great day just to know that that event attracted so many people from areas. Love to see some players from Bend come over the mountain and for that. So
that's pretty neat. Like I said, it was that good group of people, and just people hang out, and it was like that greenish teal Scorn army, right? Yeah. 'Cause I played Adam on the other one too, and but no, it was really great. I got to see some of your game, a little bit of pieces of your games there, and it was always nice. Like I said, the first round, he was like, "Oh yeah, you kind of didn't," at the end of it, it's like help coach her again a little bit, like, "Oh, this guy totally could have taken this," and you're like, "Oh hey," and then against Aaron, even mid-game, he's like, well, gave you a suggestion, because it's like you were kind of stalled out there for a little bit, I think.
Oh, man. I felt like I was in the tank the whole day.
Right.
It was just, my brain was exploding with thinking.
But you got a good learning out of it and everything, so. Yeah.
Well, and I had built Rorsch and Brian the night before, and I've never used them. But like every player I played against all knew what Rorsch and Brian did. They all knew what I did that I didn't.
You got to ninja pig that thing, pop that smoke, and move around.
Yeah. So. That's great. So, and immediately after that event, the Portland Journeyman League started. Yes. Are you participating in that?
I am not.
Oh man, you really need to.
I know.
It's great. Week 1 just wrapped up yesterday. Oz, get this, is rocking Kador for the event, and I committed to Scorn, and so I'm rocking Scorn. Right. So. And I had a weird game last week where I was playing Travis Mancorver at Portland Game Store, and I had a Titan Gladiator, and he was ready to just eat a Mangler, and so I did all the right things, mortality and rage, and I was gonna and I could not draw a line of sight because of a forest, but I could just walk over to the Mangler and then just buy attacks, and so that's what I did. I bought 4 attacks because I have Fury 4, and let's see how did it go. I don't remember the exact order, so let's just say attack 1 hit and did 2 damage. Okay. Yeah, this is it. This is right. Attack 1 hit and did 2 damage, and then I bought my second attack and I rolled Snake Eyes, and then I bought my third attack and I hit. I rolled a 1 and like a 4 or 1 or a 3 or something. I was able to hit because the defense was dropped, but then I rolled 3 1s on damage, doing no damage.
Oh man!
And then I bought my fourth and final attack, and what did I roll? Snake Eyes. So in the span of 3 successive rolls, I rolled 8 1s. I mean, are you hearing me? I mean, it was, and I only did with 4 attacks from a super hyped up, Titan Gladiator, and I did 2 damage. I mean, talk about needing to roll the dice.
Right, sad elephant.
So, yeah,
but that happens. That's the dice, right?
Yeah. Well, the Journeyman League, it looks exciting. Players are getting involved, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the finished armies at the end, kind of what the lists are. So maybe next year, the next go around, maybe you can join.
Yeah, probably be a better spot, but yeah. So from this, since you've played a lot of 75-point games, how you liking kind of going back to basics? Because I know when I first started, we played like one battle box, and we went to like 25, couple 25s, and like 50, and then 75.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I love going back to the basics, but at the same time, I wish I could do more. Like, it just feels like I'm doing so little on a turn. But a couple months ago when I started playing, I was very intentional and slow with playing with him. We did a couple 0 points, then a 10, then a 15, then a 20, and we did every stair step. The Journeyman League that we're in actually is just going to progress by 15 points each week or whatever. And so for the Oz, I did it even slower. And so I'm kind of used to actually playing some of the smaller point games in that way, because it was only just a couple months ago that Oz started playing. And for me, I've never really built a list like this before. So you have to build on your previous list. It's not like, here's a fresh, like next week is 15 points. Here's a fresh 15, build a 15-pointer. No. You have to use your battle box, and then you add to it. And so as you're building, one of the things you can do to manipulate the build point each week is you don't have to build all the way to the 15 points. You can build up to 4 points down. So if you're going to add a full unit of something plus a UA in 2 weeks, the week before you play some points down to create space for that or something. And so it requires a little bit different planning. You don't get theme benefits until maybe halfway through, I think, the Journeyman League. And so it's straight battle points and straight nothing fancy, and to be honest, it's kind of fun. So
Great.
I'm learning Beast Master Zakar, and I'm learning how awesome Mortality is. And now I just want a range extender for his spell, and then he wouldn't be up in the fray so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, my first game with Beastmaster Zakar, Ozzy assassinated me. So
no, a little too close.
Yeah. Thankfully, that was before the Journeyman League started, so it doesn't count. So, well, let's move on to our main topic for the day. I just alluded to the idea of a theme force, and when I first started playing, to be honest, I don't know if theme forces existed right away out of the box of Mark III, or if they did, I certainly did not have a handle on them. And then over the last couple of years, they started adding them. Now all of the factions have theme forces, and they have multiple theme forces to choose from. So Dan, just succinctly for our listeners, just explain what a theme force is, and then maybe some of the benefits you might receive from a theme force, and then let's kind of talk around that topic today.
All right, so your basic theme force, as that most of our guys probably know, but if you don't, is inside the faction. So let's just say like minions, been playing them, right? Is you have, on that case, 3, 4. Some factions only have 2, and it's all debatable. Everyone I hear just debates on the power levels of different themes, but essentially, you choose that theme force, and you're only allowed certain models or certain actions, and in doing so, in that little bit of trade-off in your limited model count, you get to get some benefits, such as free units for a certain amount of points, or you get a little extension on your starting area, or you get other benefits in there. Again, like Blind Water and Minions, for example, gives the Gatorman posse 8 boxes plus snacking, which is huge. So why would you play the Gatorman outside of it, right? And those different things. And for points of units, you get free solos of certain point. Those are all predetermined as well by Privateer Press. It's kind of worked them out. Or the opposite in Signar with their heavy metal is your Warjack points. Then depending on how many Warjacks you have, depends on how many solos you have, or free attachments and so forth. So there's that mix of trade-off where you're limiting yourself, but then you get a benefit for doing so. Kind of like, I guess, D&D going sub-factions, you know. You're going to limit yourself, but hey, you get some good benefits from it.
So, just, the background of us as gamers, both of us, we came from HeroClix, and HeroClix, adopted the mechanic keywords. And so you could build a force based on a shared keyword. And then there were some benefits like being able to, to re-roll a roll at some point during the game and things like that. And so as someone with that background in my gaming, a theme force makes a lot of sense in some ways. But the hard part for me when I first started playing was not knowing where to find that and what really made up a theme force, and I don't know if I had the app yet or if I knew even how to use the app. 'Cause I think when I downloaded the app, it took me several weeks to like figure out, oh, this is how it works. It wasn't all that intuitive for me in the beginning, but like I remember going to the store and finding, just these random models, and and I learned I can look them up, and then then I can this plays with such and such army. So I just started buying random models kind of in the beginning, which I don't recommend anyone doing, because I bought a Sergeant Nicholas Verandi. He's the Steelhead Solo. I think he grants leadership to other Steelhead models or something, or some kind of command benefit, or I don't even know what he does.
Yeah, I think it's the tough or
he gives something.
Yeah.
I've never used them. I have never ever used, and yet that was one of the first models I ever purchased. I bought it at like Glimpses or something out in Tualatin, and or Sherwood, I think it is where Glimpses is, and I have this problem where whenever I go to a game store, I want to support the game store, so I usually will buy something before before I walk out. And so that day, it happened to be Nicholas Verandi, whom I've never used, and
right,
and so when I figured out what a theme force was, then it really, really, really helped my wallet, because then I can say, okay, this model I can use, and so as a Khador player, I think one of the early themes was the Jaws list, and so of course I'm going to buy Widowmakers. Booyah.
Right. All these jacks? Sure thing. More stumpy robots.
Yeah. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, I guess, is when you buy a Mark III battle box, which is the most recent, starters, if you will, for each faction, you get your starting battle group, you get some cards, you get some dice, you get some tokens, you get the little rangefinder piece of paper thing, and you get what's called an introductory guide. And so I'm holding in my hand the introductory guide for Scorn. And so when you open it, the first thing you get a story about, in this case it was Beastmaster Zakar, who was the caster in the box. So I'm gonna guess that every story is unique to that particular caster in the faction. Did you read yours when you bought your?
Honestly, I didn't give it too much. I mean, I dig fluff a little bit, but I'm not a fluff master, type guy. So it's cool. It's part of the world, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't spend hours on it. I'd rather learn how to play.
Right. So are you a player who reads or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so after the story, then you have then there's a section on Scorn battle group tactics, and it describes how to use your Beastmaster Zakar and your Cyclops Savage and whatever comes in the box. But then and then of course there's the page where it says expanded options. And so on this page it talks about the different, I guess I would use the word theme now, but not knowing what themes were back then, as a new player, the different kinds of forces that you can include in your army. And so there's this page, growing your force, and it actually gives you two list options. And so I want to read I want to read the first list option, and I just want to read it verbatim. And all of the Scorn players are going to go, "What? That's not a good list." And then I'm going to use that as an example of how theme forces have really changed the face of the game, and maybe we could talk a little bit more. So you get Beastmaster as a car, and in his battle group you get a Basilisk Kreia, a Cyclops Raider, a Cyclops Savage, a Titan Gladiator, Titan Sentry. Then they suggest that you buy Cataphract Catrati. You buy some Annihilators, you buy some Pain Giver, Beast Handlers, you buy Tyrant Commander and Standard Bearer, and a Venator Flayer Cannon Crew. Now, in case you don't know, I'm pretty sure that each one of these units are from like different themes within the Scorn Empire. And so I don't know if you can actually play some of these on the same theme now. And so and actually that was one of my dilemmas when I bought the Scorn mystery box. It's like, okay, what can I build? And what I'm building is not what everyone else is playing. And so there's a little bit of a limitation there. But so this is what they suggest that you buy as you start to grow your force. And I'm wondering if they could redo the battle boxes, 3 years after the release of Mark III, and with the the addition of all of the theme forces now for all of the factions, would it be possible that they would actually edit this page and they would suggest in growing your force that you would build into one of the themes, and they would give you a suggested list that plays on one of the themes. I wonder if that's a really good idea or not.
Yeah, it seems like it would be kind of cool. Like so I got the Signar 1 Maddox easily into a Storm Division, or a Heavy Metal. But yeah, and
I don't know enough about other factions to know which theme forces came first. Because I think some of them had like 1 or 2 at the start of Mark III. And that's one of the histories. Yeah. The history is a little vague for me because it's before I started really, really getting into the game, I think. So if someone brand new, so let's say you're playing at Rune and Board or something, and you and your buddy are playing, and someone brand new walks up to the table and says, "What is this?" and shows a keen interest and wants to start playing. How would you direct a new player to get started?
That's an excellent question. Really, again, obviously, if they're showing some interest, I think we've talked to, or, you always hear about the elevator pitch and the real quick of what it's about. And again, if that kind of hooks them in, it's really deciding, I think at that point, which faction, which can be played off of, aesthetic or... I'm even finding myself too, like I like the aesthetic of a few different things, but then kind of playing it, even when I was doing some Signar, all of a sudden people are like, oh, if you're playing like that, you're kind of, your play style maybe fits better into something else. So it's, you almost have to, I think, play a few games and kind of start figuring that out. I think some people's factions almost start choosing themselves, but really it's just what looks cool, and do you want robots or do you want beasts? Maybe start there, Hordes versus Warmachine, and then kind of from there, okay, if you like the robots, all right, do you like setting people on fire? Do you like elves? Do you like electricity? Do you like being all robots? Sentient AI type of thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's somewhere, or do you now? It's like the new guys. You like being these weird alchemist dudes that have all sorts of these fancy, elemental type weapons. So really. Who am I leaving off there? Oh yeah, the Kador there, or do you like being cold and armored? So I would say kind of starting there, and then in the aspect of theme forces, then okay, do you like having a lot of robots? Do you like having a lot of dudes? Where do you like a lot of magical things? Some forces have that focus more on that, or maybe finding out what interests more, and then kind of guide that way.
Yeah. I think those are good suggestions for good questions to ask, especially for people who are coming from a different game. Someone who's like brand new to miniatures, some of those questions might not mean anything yet. Yeah. I'm a big fan of just putting models in their hand. My very first game ever was out at Nexus out in Gresham, And I had talked to Ron, and literally had bought like the box like the week before, but I hadn't built my models yet. And I just happened to be out in Gresham, and I stopped in a Nexus, and the guy there was just like, "Hey, here's my models." And he had a Khador Force, and he said, "Here are the cards, here are the dice. Play John. Here's John." And so John and I played a game, and John walked me through all of it, and I just fell in love with it, And then, and I remember real early on at like a Summer Smash event, or I can't remember, Summer Rampage event, I think is what they called.
Oh yeah.
I was waiting for a friend, and so Eli was there, and Eli had all of his circle there. And, and he said, "Hey, you want to play me while you're waiting?" And Eli handed me his phone where I could use his cards, and I used his models, and I used his dice, I used his measuring tape, I used everything that Eli had, and we played circle on circle, and it was awesome. And he has a beautifully played army, but I am not a circle player, and I know that now. So I think I love the idea of putting models in their hands.
Yes.
So, yeah. I think, if a brand new player walked up to me, I think beyond putting models in their hand, like if they had time to play, I think I would just show them the battle box, and I would say, "Hey, look at all these awesome choices," and really just kind of pick just based on what jumps out to you. At that point, it's just a gut reaction, I think. And then as they're building their army, then you want to try to get models that you kind of steer them in a theme based on some stuff. I don't know. So, what do you like to play? So, like when I was Khador, I just wanted to play all the jacks. So it was easy just to pick up Jaws as be my first theme. So
run with it.
Yeah. So and one of the happy accidents when I picked up a Manhunter, I really like the model because just axes, right? Turns out they play in the Jaws theme. So I was like, yeah, what a fun accident. So Nicholas was a failure, but a Manhunter was a success.
There you go.
So
yeah, and that's I kind of like that a little bit too. Like when I go into a new game or something like this, usually I kind of dive in. I just go right off the board in the deep end. HeroClix is the same way. I started really before talking or knowing how things work. I was already buying like models because I thought, hey, this is cool. Hey, Captain America set, sweet. It's on clearance. I'll pick up a box. Why not? And then you start learning about it and go, huh, okay, well, whatever. I'm happy enough. I got a cap on ice and still remember that whole box.
I remember that. Yeah.
So. Like with this, I started buying up a bunch of Signar right away, and then I actually, again, quickly bought some trolls, and not really knowing. Again, I didn't know what really worked with what fully well. Again, kind of learning that whole list thing. I was the same way. Whereas, if I wasn't as impulsive like that, then maybe backing up and going, okay, yeah, maybe I'll just start buying these models this direction, right? Yeah. Or again, just as far as building and kind of learning what works together pretty well. I thought Theme Forces gave a little bit of that aspect as well in order to kind of limit my choices so it wasn't so overwhelming. I wasn't reading 30 cards trying to figure out interactions. I could go, Storm Division and go, okay, hey, here's these electrical guys, and so I'm not even worried about half the units or even considering and worrying about what they do. I can just focus on certain models and go from there.
I think, and as you get deeper into the game, I think it's fun to have like maybe like your home base. Like this is my number one faction. This is the one that I play, but I also have models in this other faction, and it's a tremendous palette cleanser. And so when I first, Khador doesn't have some of the fun toys that some of the other factions have. It's a very straightforward kind of army. And so when I first branched out of Khador, it was Cephalix. And so I picked up Cephalix, and it was a tremendous palette cleanser because they could do all this fun stuff. And it had different orders of activation. And and I'm playing with 1 million dudes, and to have a caster that can do TK is brilliant,
Right.
you know. And so for a long time, that's the only mercs I played, and our buddy Dan kind of made fun of me a little bit, calling me a mercs player, and I'm like, no, I'm not a mercs player. I'm a Cephalix player.
Yeah.
And so I had to succumb to the accusation, and eventually I picked up some mercs, and so I am now a merc player.
Yeah, you got to remember Dan though is also kind of a purist, right? He's kind of a faction purist, which I can't be.
He's mono-faction, but the thing is he knows everything about his faction.
Yes.
And the thing is he's a good player. He actually knows about other factions too, and he knows how his faction interacts with those factions. And so he's a smart player. He's been playing for a long time too. Yeah. So eventually we're going to get him on the podcast and to talk about that perspective, about what it's like to be a mono faction player. So I think before themes, if themes didn't exist, I think being a mono faction player would be easier. But now that themes do exist, you can venture out a little bit, and your scope, like you said already, is limited, you know, and I think that's a benefit. And so I think more players have more models now, and because they want to have the choices. Today I feel like playing bleh.
Yeah.
Like I just randomly played minions for fun at the last quarterly.
Right.
And indeed it was fun.
Yeah. Well, like I said, for me, for minions, is I don't really play the pig, parts over. I'm kind of two of the theme, because
that's true.
Pharaoh doesn't apply to me because I can't field it.
That's true. Oh man, my razor boars are nicely painted.
Yeah. And
I'm working on my warhog. So more on that for the hobby desk. Well, let's kind of wrap up our main topic today, and we have some upcoming events that we just want to highlight. One of them is the 3 Commanders event, which is going to be taking place December 8th. And I got to tell you, the event is full. It's capped out. There was a lot of interest in this event, and James is running that, and he's a great guy, and he really waffled about whether or not to add more teams, and and the issue becomes space and material and tables, and but then the issue also becomes number of rounds and how long he really wants to be there, because team events do take longer than solo events. There's just it's a different kind of planning and different kind of setup that you have to be prepared to run. Yeah. And so I think he capped it at 12, kind of on a first come first serve. So I want to highlight some of the team names. I love the team names. Okay, so I'm on a team with 2 other Jeremys, and so we're the Jer Bears, and we're having fun with that. But we have some filthy casuals showing up. These are some of those that were there on the I5 team, I think. We have the Dennis Wilson Experience. Team name pending. If that's your actual name, that's meta.
It is.
But
that's, I think, Remy's team. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was not your name. Your new name better kick that one's butt. We have Alex and Aaron's Awesome Adventure. So
I hope there's a third person.
I hope so too, because they're going to be dropping one every round. It's going to make it hard. Harry York's Iron Sporks. Dig it. I dig it. The rhyming feature there. Ben Bros. Hey, we got a Ben team coming. Sweet. Steve's Cheese. I don't know what that's about. Boo Boo Choo Choo.
That could be anything.
That could be anything. We have Eli's Potato Wedge Cadets. Right on.
Makes sense for Eli.
We have JC's 3 Bean Burrito.
Mm.
Yeah, and then JC's a cool cat, and we have Uno Punto. So I love that the guys are having fun with their team names, and I'm actually looking forward to that day. It's gonna be a fun day.
Yeah,
so
it should be a lot of fun, and again, great support from everyone, because he went from 8 teams to 12 teams, which just 24 to 36 people now then.
Yeah.
So he reached out and just basically asked for some support, and within like an hour, I think 2, 3, 4 people stepped up and said they would help judge and run.
And that really speaks to our community. We have a fabulous community right now. It's a great time to be a Warmachine and Hordes player.
Yeah.
We have the 2019 Masters League, which is going to begin January 14th. You can register online at COG Collective and in the events page there. The way that's going to be run is registrants are going to be put into pods, and then you have to kind of emerge victorious out of your pod, and then you get invited to like the Grand Master event, which I think will be a 1-day 3-rounder or something.
Yeah.
But I love that kind of event because that means there's flexibility with scheduling your games with your opponents in your pod. I participated in the Masters last year, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, I did too, and I plan on being in this one. That was really my first kind of tournament.
Nice.
Go around, and
nice.
Yeah, so I plan on doing this one as well, and
cool.
Should be good.
Well, and immediately after the pod phase of the Masters, we're going to have a brand new event. What is that, Dan?
So pretty excited about this. Some of you might have heard of it, but basically I connected a little bit with Jonathan from Battle Driven, but anyway, sorry. And they were kind enough to share the King of Coins rules and kind of give some blessings to run our own event. And apparently there's been some interest other words in the country as well. So we'll have more details and rules and everything coming out and iron out all the details, but really kind of excited. Our own King of Coins on the short, if you haven't heard of it yet. Basically, we'll hand out 8 coins, representing the original 4 factions and the 4 hordes. And throughout the event, we'll sign up and battle, and everybody, find someone with a coin. You give them a challenge and try to get a coin from them. And if you win the coin, hey, you have it. Then you got to defend it up until we're going to have again the main event, which will be the 8 people with the coin. That's your admission. Is you got to bring that coin.
That's right.
And an army would probably be good to play, but show on up and then battle it out, and we'll have our own little 8-person steamroller sense.
Yeah, I really like this. So we can have 18, 16, 20 people can participate,
50,
right?
60, whatever. Yeah.
And the idea is if you are part of the event and you're facing someone who is also part of the event and they have a coin, and no matter what kind of game you're playing, whether it's a friendly during the week or some other kind of game that you can challenge that person for that coin, and so there's something meaningful on the line of that game.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that these coins would be changing hands on a weekly basis, unless you're just that good and you're no one's beating you, which is also awesome. And then whoever after a certain window of time, whoever the 8 remaining players with the coins are, those are the ones who will be invited into the 8-man. So we have to work out some of the details with Ben and James. We want to make sure that it fits into the tournament scene nicely, but we want to sponsor that. So we're getting you're working on making the coins and stuff. So we're excited about that. But look forward to the King of Coins event in early 2019. So I know we are. It's coming fast. So
very excited.
Well, why don't we wrap up this episode today? It is a nice just get together and chat. We have several topics that we want to cover over the next several weeks, and we have some guests lining up that we want to bring on to help us talk about those topics. And so, for those of you out there, just stay tuned, keep listening. We appreciate you listening, and we appreciate all of the feedback that you give us too. So, Dan, what is on your hobby desk right now?
So right now, I've kind of leaned back towards playing trolls in the coming year. So I had a champ unit. I was able to, eke out some sunny enough weather, primed them as hard as I could, as fast as I could. And then, so I've been painting those guys up. Sadly, I'm probably about 9 hours in. I still have some washes and highlights to do. But let me tell you, like an hour and a half of that has been trying to paint tartans. Why someone wants to do this themselves. It looks cool. It's a labor of love, though, man.
Yeah, I don't play trolls for a reason.
I mean, they're cool, and I mean, it's part of the aspect, and want to do it, but now I did it on these units. I'll probably have to do it on future units. But hey.
That's right, and you have to do the same.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, buddy. Nice. Well, obviously, I'm still in the building mode. I don't have 2 75-point lists yet of Scorn built yet, so they're on my armoire and various stages. I just need glue and time, I guess, to finish those. But I was thinking about some kind of motivator for you and I, and maybe even for our listeners, if you want to join us. We have, our goal is to release an episode of Spellstorm Miniatures, twice a month, every other week kind of rhythm, and because we want to have time to play and hobby ourselves, and so, but what if in between each episode we have a finish a figure challenge? And so the reason why I say finish a figure is because one, they both start with an F. It's an alliteration, and I'm a nerd. But more specifically, you know how when you have a unit, and usually there's a unit leader, and then some grunts. Well, the grunts don't have to be nicely painted, but sometimes the unit leader stands out a little bit more. And so if like between now and then, you're working on a unit of trolls, and you want to make your unit leader stand a little bit more and give it a little more detail, that can count as sort of a finish a figure challenge. And so I guess if we're recording, every other week or so, and if we're committed to painting, finishing a figure all the way to finish, right? Whether it's build, paint, and whatever, base and all that stuff, one figure in between each episode, then that's really going to help us to get, to get our painted armies on the table. Earlier we mentioned it's just nice to see painted armies. So I think if I say this out loud, and I have listeners who are listening, who are then going to hold me accountable to, hey, what figure are you finishing? Then that could mean then maybe I can actually get my button gear.
Gonna make us post on Discord or something. Start posting it and doing a Twitter of.
And knowing JC, he'll be the first to call me out.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking in my head, the finish a figure challenge, and so I'm starting it now. Wish me luck, and Dan, I wish you luck too. Good luck with those tartans. Hey, we want to thank everyone for listening to us today. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. We want to invite you to hit us up at spellstormminiatures.com. We have links to our own Discord server there if you want to join us there. We also have links to our YouTube page where we're posting bat reps and unboxings and different things like that. And eventually we'll have information about the King of Coins event up there, and a few other goodies too. So any last words, Dan, before we sign off?
No, that's good. I appreciate everyone listening and giving the feedback.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Bum 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 bum.